I brought in around 32 yards of material to fix this place up.
Welcome to the Art of Gardening. I'm your host, Melissa Lalla-Johnson, and I am very excited to have my good friend, Clint from The Neighbor Dominator, which I love that name, Clint. Clint, I love your Instagram page. I love your Facebook page. Everything that you're doing to help educate about lawn care is amazing. If you don't follow Clint, he is The Neighbor Dominator on Instagram. He also runs a Facebook group that is called Lawn Care 101 that has over 46,000 followers, where they are constantly trading tips, tricks, and advice about lawns and all the good stuff. So, and YouTube as well. He has a wonderful YouTube page, just has hit over 1 million views recently, which is very impressive. And that is The Neighbor Dominator as well. So thanks so much for being here with us today, Clint. Let's get started. And can you kind of just dive right into what your growing conditions are, where you live, and kind of give our audience a little bit of background about you?
Yeah, I'm in the southeast Michigan, just north of Detroit, and I live on Lake St. Clair. So it's really wet where I'm at. And so I'm in the north, and I grow cool season grass. And my last lawn was Kentucky bluegrass. And then I just moved 2 years ago, and I redid this entire property. I have 6,000 square feet, and I have fine fescue in the back. And that was the Barenberg seed. And then my front and side yards are perennial ryegrass. And I just overseeded with Kentucky bluegrass to kind of fill in the spots. So, but yeah, I brought in around 32 yards of material to fix this place up. It was really bumpy. The previous owner, there were like holes in the ground. There was backfill from the building the house. And like there were cinder blocks back here. And in the front yard, there were bricks on the yard. So I took out all the bad and I threw in a bunch of good, leveled it all out, and then started from seed. I did not do sod back here.
Amazing. Well, it looks very thick and lush. Absolutely beautiful. And you're going to give us a quick tour of some different things, but we're going to get to see the front and the side yard too, which I'm very excited to see what's going on now in Michigan. So can you tell us, how did you get started into lawn care? What was your path for this?
Well, when I was younger, I was a golfer, and I had a scholarship to go to Ferris State, and I chose a different path. But growing up, I was always on the golf course, and I always said that when I have my own house, I want to have like a putting green, or I want a fairway. I used to love the landscape of golf courses, how like they stripe the fairways and everything. So, I was kind of from high school, I was obsessed with the grass. And then finally, when I got my own house, when you're cutting your parents' lawn, it's kind of like a chore. But now when you have your own house, you're kind of like, I want it to look nice. So it's the passion went from golf to taking care of the lawn, because I'm a father of 4. So it's kind of like, you don't want to leave for 5 hours on the golf course. So I brought the golf course to my house, and now I've had a putting green on the front yard. My last house, I did a putt golf course in the backyard. So I'm kind of just bringing my old passion into the new, and that way I can be home with my family and enjoy what I really love, which is lawn care now.
That's awesome. And congratulations. I know you have a 9-week-old baby. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. You're a busy guy. Can you show us? So I love exploring the different types of mowers that are available and what the uses are for the different types of lawns that people use them for. And I know you have 2 very specific types of mowers behind you. Can you explain those to us and kind of give us a 101 on those, please?
Well, the one that I have right here is what I was cutting with, is the original Toro battery powered mower. And I just upgraded to this. This is a rotary mower. I use all battery. I don't use gas. And but I do have a gas one in the shed just in case. But what I have on the back of this, there's a little bracket you can see to get these stripes. It's the way the grass bends. And a lot of people don't know that. I've been asked before, like, are you using two different types of grass, or am I painting it, or am I cutting it different heights? And it's the way the sun hits the grass blade. So when I'm mowing this way, it makes the light stripe, and when I come back at the sun, because the sun's behind, or it's over here right now, and so that stripe kit on the back, what it is, it's called a checkmate. A lot of people don't know those, but it's weighted wheels, and then it bends the grass down as we cut. So, and then I will retrace it normally twice, and the more you go over the lines, the more it will define it. But yeah, back here, I keep the lawn at around 3.5 inches. And this is my primary mower, which is a battery powered Toro super recycler, and with a checkmate striper. The checkmate is what does all these stripes, because when you use a mower on its own, it just has a back flap and it doesn't do very much. But the big thing that I do and what I built the channel around was real mowing. And I have that set up front, but I didn't know if you wanted me to go out front, but I use Allet reel mowers. They're cylinder mowers, kind of like what Grandma and Grandpa used to use. I started off with a manual push mower. It has all the blades, and then there's a blade on the bottom that acts like scissors, so you can get an extremely clean cut, just like what golf courses have. So it allows you to continue to go lower and still have a green lawn, because when you do use these rotary mowers and you try and go lower, even it doesn't matter how sharp the blade is, it's almost like it tears it, because it's a blade spinning this way. It's a rotary mower, like a helicopter, and it's kind of hacking the grass. So the grass tips are frayed, and then the next day they'll get a little brown. So but when you cut it longer like this, it's fine. Up front, I have all my cylinder mowers that I use. So, and they're powered. I started off with manual, just like Grandma and Grandpa, and then it would get a ripple effect. And I was like, how do you fix this? And I started watching some YouTube, and you have to increase the speed and the frequency of how it spins, and you have to buy ones that are powered. So I actually have a mower obsession. I have 3 of them right now for the front and the side yard, just to kind of spice it up for the channel when I cut.
Oh, it's great. So tell me about the Toro. How long does the battery last on that?
This one, it says I have a 7.5 amp hour battery on it, and with the cutting on there, it has a max on there. This is the max, so it mulches very well, opposed to the other just regular recyclers. And with the 7.5 amp hour battery on max, it says that it'll go to 50 minutes, but I put that kit on there so it adds extra weight, so it's going to drain the battery a little bit. But I was able to, with the stripe kit on here, I was back here before the show. I was kind of retracing my stripes, and I was back here for probably about 30 minutes, and I'm still sitting at a half battery, no problem. It doesn't bog it down or anything. But battery is, with my reel mowers, I use an Ego battery on my Allet, and that can cover, I have 4,000 square feet of mowing, and I can get that done on one charge, no problem. So I don't know. Personally, I like the battery because I'm a family man. I have babies, and they're quiet. You cannot hear them, So, but when you have the gas, everyone always does on the social media, like, this is the sound of my people, and they start their mower and it wakes up the whole neighborhood. I've mowed at night, and I normally mow at around like 6:30 in the morning, before like the whole subdivision's up. That way it doesn't interfere with my family time, and the best way to do that is with battery.
What type of blades are on that mower? Are you using mulching blades or just a standard?
Yeah, it's the standard that's on there right now. It came with 2 blades, and it has a performance mulching blade that I have not put on yet, because honestly, that thing was so sharp when it came here. And I regularly cut. I probably cut my lawn. The best practice to do is to not just wait till your lawn is 8 inches and then you cut it once a week. I cut my lawn probably 3 times a week, and really early in the morning, before everyone's up, before work, before the kids get up. And just using a regular blade, because I'm taking probably less than a third of the grass blade off, so it doesn't bog it down at all. But I was saving the performance blade for when this dull's out. I was just going to swap them out. But yeah, normally with, if you're not a grass nerd like me and you're cutting once a week, I would put the performance blade on, which is a mulching blade that it came with. That way it performs better.
I think that one of the things to note too is to let people know that are kind of new into doing this, that I also am very big on the striping kit. It's amazing. I think everybody should own one. And when you're cutting your grass, it's important to not take more than a third off of the length of the grass, because then you stress your grass out. And then, you're in environments where it gets really hot in the middle of the day. So the grass is stressed because you've cut way too much off, and then the moisture and nutrients are right out of the grass, and so then your grass can go through stress. So cutting here in Missouri, I'm cutting usually about every 4 to 5 days, and definitely every 3 to 4 when it's after fertilizers in the spring and it's really active. But right about now, I'm probably about 5-6 days in the middle of the summer. So it is really important, like you said, to not let the grass grow to 8-9 inches and then cut at 3.5-4 inches. It's definitely going to make more trouble than it's worth. So thanks for sharing that. Tell us about the other mower. So the other one that's behind you is the gas powered. You said that's a Toro.
No, these are
one behind you.
No, that's another battery one that I have. That's what I've been using, and it works perfect. But Toro came out with the newer one, so I actually just upgraded. So I've used this thing maybe about like 5 or 6 times now, and it's fantastic. Is there any way that I could go to the front yard and show you? Because I can't. Yeah. Is that all right?
Yes, absolutely. Before Clint moves to the front yard to show us some of his toys up there, Clint, can you show us this magnificent view you have in the back and tell us a little bit about the property?
Yeah, definitely. So I live on Lake St. Clair. This is actually behind me is called the Clinton River. Everyone thinks that I'm joking because my name is Clint, but no, it is called the Clinton River, and it spills out into Lake St. Clair. And it's not one of the major bodies of water, but it's not like an inland lake. And you can actually get to Florida from here. A lot of these people will take their boats down to Florida. A lot of them have like these big yachts out here. But this right here, this is where all the restaurants are and all the gas stations and bars and stuff. So this is where all the nightlife comes, is where I live. And yeah, it's a really happening spot, because a lot of people will think like living out on the lake, it's like they live out on the bay and there's nothing. I mean, right now it's early, but when it comes to Friday, Saturday, we almost need traffic lights out here, because all these bays are empty and like it is just nonstop boats up and down. So it's a lot of fun living out here. So yeah,
it sounds like it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice out here. It's different, than living in. It's funny. So I'll crack jokes sometimes with some of the people at work, and I call them land lovers, like a pirate. You land lover, because I live on the water. So I do some funny stuff like that.
Do you have moles there? Do you have moles or voles?
I don't have that problem. I'm lucky because my neighbor, he sits lower. I'm one of the highest points. So I don't have that problem, but they do. They can't make it up to where I'm at.
First of all, that looks amazing, and your stripes are beautiful. Have you found that having your house located right there, having traffic and people coming around all the time, that how many people pass by and like, how do I do this to my yard?
The front, I get it all the time, and honestly, hopefully that's not too loud. Where I live, I'm the youngest guy on the block, and there are a lot of retired, like people that work at Big Three and stuff like that. So they're constantly walking their dogs, and then they come by and they touch the lawn and they're like, "Is that real?" Because some people do have artificial grass on the street, and I tell them no. I'm like, and then when I use these machines, they excuse me, they've never seen them before. They're used to a normal, like your old school Toro that's gas powered. And, here I am using this thing. They're like, that thing looks like it's going to cut my hand off. And I'm like, well, yeah, it will. I'm like, it's a cylinder mower. I'm like, you probably used one when you were younger. I'm like, I go, they're powered now. And they're like, oh, wow. So, and when I put the grass catchers on them, people asked me if it was a vacuum because they look kind of funny when the grass catchers are on them, and they're battery powered. So all they do is hum. So they're like, are you vacuuming your lawn? And I'm like, no, I'm cutting it.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what's behind you. What are the models and what are the bells and whistles on them?
This right here is what I built the channel on and how I first got into reel mowing. That's the Allet Liberty 43, and it's a cartridge system. So right now I have the brush in there. That's for when I do sand leveling, or if like there's like a storm and there's debris on the lawn, opposed to cutting it and mulching it all up. I use that to remove the debris or smooth out the sand. But yeah, you can remove these cartridges and then you can install. I have a 6-blade reel. I also have a verticutter because now that I'm overseeding with Kentucky bluegrass, it helps. It cuts. It has like a bunch of blades this way, so it helps like split the leaf, and it's supposed to have it spread. Plus, it removes more of the debris that is in the thatch later. And then I also have a scarifier or a dethatcher that I put in there because what I have found doing, across seas, some of those lawns are beautiful and they can't use fertilizer like us. So they use this system, and it's a lot more friendly for the environment. So I figured I'd give it a shot, and I mean, it's working, and then on this one right here, this is their newest one. This is called the Allet Sterling 51, and they named their machines after castles around. They're from the UK, so they have really nice mowers, and they name them after their castles. And with this one, I just have the scarifier or the dethatcher. It's just basically a power rake. So I do that on the regular out here because this season I've also been using a lot of soil microbes because with my kids, I try not to put so much fertilizer on the lawn because they like to come out here and play soccer, and I'll put a golf hole out here sometimes and they play on it, and I don't want to put a lot of anything that's not that it's super harmful, but it's better to go a little natural. So I've been using soil microbes and humics, and then scarifying like once a month, trying to remove the debris out of the lawn, and then I reel mow out here.
Okay, so I definitely want to touch more on the microbes because as for a property like mine, it's just unattainable. I have too much to cover, so it's very, very expensive. But I definitely want to talk about that because that's a huge deal for people that have a smaller size lawn that can use them. But before we do that, let's go back to the scarifying. And so you said about once a month you're running the machine where it's doing any of the debris collection, correct?
When a lot of times I don't bag because a lot of, you put nutrients on the lawn, it goes through the grass blade, and then now we recycle them back into your lawn, and then it breaks down, and then it turns back into nutrients. So I do that a lot, but sometimes it doesn't all break down, and then you'll develop a thatch layer on there. So for me, I use soil microbes to help break that down to return the nutrients back into the soil. And then what doesn't break down, I use this thing. So this has a bunch of tiny tines on it, and it acts like a rake. So it digs into the thatch layer, and it will bring up any excess thatch. So I'll do it like at the end of I'll do it at the end of this month. And so like I'm using soil microbes from this company, Turf Titan. It's called Thatch Buster. It helps break down the thatch, and then whatever's left over, I reset, because a lot of times when you have too much thatch in the lawn, that's when it starts to feel really spongy, and that can actually stop nutrients from going into the soil if your layer is too thick. So you can put if your soil's right here and you got a nice thick thatch layer on top, and then you start to put nutrients down, it's just you're gonna be fertilizing your thatch and nothing's gonna get into the soil. So I try and thin that out as much as possible. A little bit's okay, but I like to thin it out as much as possible. That way all the soil microbes and all the water can go in there, and then now it festers in there, and then you can get fungus in your lawn if you have too much thatch. So I try to remove not all of it, but quite a bit of any excess. And this lawn doesn't have a lot because I stay on top of it, because once again, I'm a grass nerd, but a lot of people do it like seasonally. They'll do it in the spring to get ready for summer, and then they cut all summer, and then they'll do it in the fall. But you get a lot of it when you wait till the grass is too long. And, when, like we were talking about cutting off a third of the grass blade, when you're doing that, it can break down, especially in a lawn like that's short like this. Like my grass blades are real tiny. So like those break down pretty much. But if I'm going to let the backyard get to 8 inches and then chop it down to 3, I'm going to have dead debris sitting down in there. And I do dethatch the backyard as well.
So when you're running that scarifier, how much of obviously it's going to pick things up from underneath and kind of make some debris on the top. Do you just mow over top of that, or do you have to collect it? Or you bag it? What do you do with the debris that comes up from underneath?
These have grass catchers on them, and it's just a little box that goes on the front. And I will make a pass, and it'll collect it all. And normally on this, I can get away with normally one. Well, I call it a catcher. It's the same thing as the bag on the back of a rotary mower. It just goes on the front of these things because with the blade spin, it shoots it forward, so it just catches it in the front. And I collect them like that. And then in the backyard, though, when I scarify, because the grass is longer, I don't put these mowers out there. I actually have a Sun Joe for the backyard. I love it. It's corded. It's funny, like having a cord on there. You got to dance around it, but it's I will do it to the back. I'll cut it shorter, and then the debris will be left behind because on the Sun Joe, it spits out the back and it will leave it all over the lawn. And then I go over it with my lawnmower and I put the bag on. I set it on the highest setting. That way it acts like a vacuum and it sucks it all up. Because if you're going to go and cut it back up, if you put your mower lower and now you're chopping it up, you're putting it right back in. So I set it up on the highest and it sucks it all back into the bag. And then now we have a nice clean lawn.
So what advice do you have? For instance, here at my house, we bought this property and it's got a ton of trees on it. And unfortunately, they're all native trees and they all make nuts and fruit and things like that. So I battle with a ton of acorns and nuts and hickory nuts and the whole thing. Would one of those work to pick up that level of debris, or is it more just like grass clipping debris?
No, 100%. The scarifying cartridge on there will work, and then also the brush. But a lot of people will use, and I've seen it before, they'll use the scarifier. And on the other side, I have trees over there, and they produce all the helicopters on there. And there's times where I'll just take the scarifier and I'll put that on, and then I'll lower it down a little bit to where it's not digging into the canopy of the lawn, and it will pick everything up, and it actually stripes it too while you're doing it. But yeah, if you have some sort of power rake that has a catcher, you can grab all that stuff with it and it doesn't harm the machine. And I did something once, and I posted it on Instagram, where when I was renovating the far side, my side plot, the company did not screen the dirt, which was very bad, and I had a lot of stones in there. And when I leveled it out, there was a lot of pebbles sticking through, and I reel mow. And if you catch a rock in one of these machines, they're fussy. And when the cylinder blade catches it on the bed knife and you have a rock in there, you can do some serious damage to these. So what I did was, and Alec wasn't, I don't think, very happy with it, but I put the scarifier on there when it was dirt, and I put it really lightly, and I power raked the dirt with my Alec Liberty 43, and it picked up all the rocks, no problem, and on the dirt, on the surface of the dirt, and it worked out very well. So yeah, you can use these to pick up acorns, no problem.
Another question for you. So we're getting close on time. So I want to, we're definitely going to have you back on again because you have so much information to share. Can you tell us a little bit about your yearly treatment plan? Are you on like a 5-step plan? What treatments are you doing? I know you discussed the microbes, which if you're not familiar with using microbes, when the microbes go into the lawn, they actually digest decaying material. So it's similar to putting like the worm tea that I'm a huge fan of. The microbes that you're using are probably a little more or a lot more intense. So they're digesting that thatch. They're helping remove any decaying and debris matter. What else outside of the microbes are you doing that's kind of like your yearly plan?
So I I honestly I don't do the because I've seen people put very low inputs of nitrogen on their lawn and the lawn looks fantastic. When people are saying that you need 3 to 4 pounds of nitrogen per year, I'm trying something different this year. I'm doing very low inputs of nitrogen on here. It's just to bring back the color is when I'm doing nitrogen, and I've been just doing the soil microbes. This company that I work with is called Turf Titan, and all their products have soil microbes in it, and then they throw some NPK in there, and then a little bit of iron, and then they have like it's kind of like hose end bottles, or you can do the backpack sprayer. But I spoon feed my lawn. I don't normally just because what you can do is also to achieve a good lawn is like I've seen like Scott's 4-step programs where it's like beginning, middle, like a couple middle applications, and then the end of the year. I do on this front. This has been like I've done one granular application on here. Otherwise, every week I spray a little bit of nitrogen. I don't do any phosphorus on my lawn because I live on the water and I get worried about any type of leaching or anything because of the algae blooms that are out here in Michigan. It's really bad. So I don't want to be one of those people that contribute to it. So I have phosphorus free all year round. And then I just every week I put a little bit on. I just do what the recommended dosage, the lowest dosage is with the products that I have from Turf Titan, and this is honestly this is the best my lawn has ever looked, and I think really it is because of the soil microbes, because they can unlock nutrients that are locked up in your soil. And I know it's not good for real mowing, but after I put down the soil microbes, I have so many worms in my lawn that I don't even think I need to aerate this year. I've never seen the worm castings that I've seen on the lawn, and I honestly think that that's a huge contributor, because people that use it in flowers and garden, they have beautiful flowers and beautiful gardens that use soil microbes. So I figured why not do it in the lawn, and it's a lot healthier for when if my kids come out and play. I don't have to worry about any synthetic fertilizers getting all over them. I can spray this stuff on the lawn, and then they can walk right on it. I mean, not that I do that, but I mean they can, because it's basically it's organic. So this is I'm a spoon feeder. I do it like every week. I'm putting something down, whether it's just a little bit of nitrogen, or a little bit of iron, a lot of micros that I put in there. But I don't have a set plan. I just kind of like look at the lawn, and if it's telling me that it needs something, your flowers when you look at them. When they're looking sad, it's funny. I can see that in my lawn. So when it's starting to look a little sad, then I'll put an application on.
So when your lawn starts to look, so the heat of the summer is coming, right? That initial browning of heat stress, things like that. Are you going straight to iron for that to bring the green back, or what do you go to for that?
So this company that I had, it's actually this guy right here, he looks like a fruit. I don't know, but they have this stuff called Drought Defender, and what it's majority of is kelp. And I've never used any sort of kelp or anything on the lawn. I learned a lot about that this year, and the benefits of it in the summer. And so I'm doing a video right now. It's probably going to be out later this afternoon. I use this Drought Defender, which is majority kelp, and then it has ethylene inhibitors in there, which stop the yellowing when the plant goes into a stress mode. It'll start to go dormant, and it kind of prolongs that to where, in my opinion, where you can get water to it. Like let's say you miss a day of watering and your lawn's going to start to go dormant. These inhibitors will help the lawn stay greener a little bit longer. So it's kind of like, a lot of people are familiar with a product called Hydratane. That is Turf Titan's Hydratane. And there's wetting agents in it as well, to where the soil will retain water a lot longer and just and hold the water in the soil opposed to it evaporating. So it's kind of a water retention kelp with inhibitors in there that my lawn has not went dormant. Last year, my lawn had a lot of heat spots, and it looked like it was partially dead last year from the heat. And using this product, it has been fantastic. So it's a lot of kelp is in this lawn right now.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that because I actually just started using the PETRATOOLS sells a fish and kelp seaweed extract, and my hydrangea were turning yellow, and they needed a little bit of help, and so I blasted it with those. But I haven't considered using it on the lawn because I knew that the kelp and the fish extract would help keep the moisture levels in the soil. So I was using them around my plants because we've had 100-degree days. So I was using them around the bases of the hydrangea and then spraying through all the leaves. And so all of that looked great. But I have definitely had some heat stress because some of the areas where we have sprinklers and irrigation, it's back off the tree line. And so it's just full of, wooded weeds and things like that back there. So it's blocking the sprinklers. So I've had some areas that have really struggled. I didn't even think to use something like that in those areas to help the moisture retain in the soil of the lawn.
I didn't know anything about that either until I started working with them. So it's it's so funny because I live out on the water and I'm using products with seaweed in it as well. And seaweed is supposed to have a very big benefit. And I had no idea, about this. The deeper I go into the rabbit hole of lawn care, I'm finding more and more. I'm meeting more and more people like yourself, that are experts in certain areas and getting. I'm just a DIY person. I make pizzas. That's what my profession is, and this is just a passion of mine. And the more I get into it, the more I'm learning. So I'm now applying kelp and seaweed to my lawn. I also used Simple Lawn Solutions. They came out with a humic acid and a seaweed product this year that I used on the hot spots in the backyard. And if I could say one thing is for the lawn, you can achieve a really good lawn, especially if you're on a watering schedule. A lot of people think that if you water for 15 minutes, it's going to do something. It doesn't, especially when it's hot. That was my biggest probably game changer of the year besides using soil microbes. I bought a timer. I don't have irrigation. I'm a hose dragger, and I got a timer actually. It's a Melner digital. It's very simple, and it has Sunday throughout the whole week, and you just program it. And I'm watering twice a week for around like 30 to 40 minutes. That way, it gets down. I get like 1 inch to 2 inches of water, and it gets deep down into the soil. That way, the roots will drive deeper to grab that water. And then now my roots, like right now, if I were to cut up a slice of my lawn, I bet you my roots are so long because I water so deep. And plus two, you're going to get some of those nutrients that are deep in there that, have just been sitting there. So my roots are deep in this lawn. So I have to water really deep. And if you're going to water for 15 minutes, you're just going to get the top little bit wet. And then the sun's going to dry all that up. You got to get that water like down here. So it's like that involves watering for like at least, 30 to 40 minutes. And I do that twice a week. And now that it's cooling off, I'll probably back off and do it maybe once a week. But watering and frequent cutting will get you 90% better than everyone in the subdivision just by those two practices. You don't even need the fertilizer, just watering it properly and cutting properly.
And just paying attention. Everybody's growing zone is different. The environments are different. The, wooded versus the lake, everything. So I feel like in just paying attention is really all it takes. And once you kind of are able to understand the different needs that your lawn has, like, so for instance, here in Missouri, I'm watering like 4 days a week and I'm on 35 minutes, 4 days a week, but it gets to be in the high 90s here. So then when it starts to break into the 90s and into the hundreds, I was listening to a superintendent podcast, and they said in the middle of the day in some of the super hot areas, they'll hit it with the sprinklers just for a minute or two to break the heat pattern on the grass. So then I said, well, I can do that here. And I started setting the timers. And I'll tell you what, I did that last year for the first time. My grass never looked so good through July, August, where we're getting blasted with huge amounts of heat. And the grass just was thriving. And I think breaking that pattern just for that minute or two really changed a lot of things here for me. But for your soil, what type of soil are you working with? Is it loam? Are you guys dealing with clay? What is it that you're growing?
There's a lot of clay here where I'm at, but I mean this lawn though, this is a lot of clay is in this area, but my lawn is this is sand. I have this front yard. I removed a lot of the old material, and I brought in 12 yards of 80% sand, 20% dirt. Then that was all screened and mixed. So for real mowing, and I did it in the backyard as well. It's also good for drainage because, living on the water, it's just, we get lake effect, and it rains more here. So, as far as for drainage, I elected to go with sand, and I didn't know that you could grow grass in sand, but if you go to a golf course and you pull up a chunk of grass over there, that whole thing's sand. So, I was like, well, if a golf course is looking good, through summer and everything, and I know that they have people monitoring it all the time, but I elected to go with sand because I like to use these machines, and you want to have a nice level lawn when you use these. If it's bumpy, you're better off with a normal rotary mower, whatever, everyone else uses, but this, you need it to be flat. So my lawn's really flat with sand.
Well, that's awesome. Clint, we are out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much for hopping on with me last minute. And again, I like to remind our audience that this is a brutal, brutal world in the social media world. So please, any engagement, if you've learned anything today or you enjoyed the time listening, please give a like, a subscribe, a comment, a follow, a save. Those things all help small creators like us really kind of take it to the next level. If you are interested again in learning more about Clint, his Instagram and YouTube pages are The Neighbor Dominator, and his Facebook group page is Lawn Care 101, where he gives tons and tons of great tips with a whole huge group of 46,000 people. So definitely want to check that out. Clint, any closing words for us?
Yeah, what I'm really proud about is the Facebook group. It grew a lot this year, and I have a couple of my friends that help run it. But the thing is we agreed that it's called Lawn Care 101 for beginners and new homeowners, and it's open for everybody to ask any kind of question, because I've been in groups before, and because like you said, it's a brutal world out there in social media. If someone wants to come out there and ask, what kind of weed is this? And it's a dandelion, if someone is going to bully and say, hey, that's a dandelion, silly, and use different choice words, we kick them all out. So you can ask anything in there, as it could be the simplest basic question to an expert question. Our admins are educated in there, and the group is just fantastic. And then we got discount codes for everything in there. So if you're just starting out, it's a great place for beginners to learn anything about lawn care. So yeah, that's we're really happy with how the group turned out, and we're using our basic knowledge that I've learned from watching everybody. We just shared in the group, so it's a lot of fun and it's a good environment.
Well, that is wonderful, and sometimes people forget they had to learn at some point too what a dandelion was. So
yeah,
emulate, right?
That's me. Yeah, that's why I made the group, because I was scared. I would go into forums and it was intimidating, and this place is not. So yep, we all got to learn.
Well, that's wonderful. Clint, thanks again so much for joining us. And we will definitely see you again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.